Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at the controversy online surrounding the book Keeping Her Under by Miranda Grant. A content warning for this video, so don't feel like you need to continue, but there will be mentions of sexual assault, suicide, and CSAM. So if this sounds like it's too much, I'll link something lighthearted here for you to watch instead, and I'll just see you next time. Now, this book has come under a lot of scrutiny in recent weeks, especially over on TikTok. Let me read you the blurb so you can get more of an understanding. When the most beautiful angel is wheeled into my hospital, I've become obsessed with the need to have her. It's all I can think about as she nearly dies on our operating table, having just wrapped her car around a tree. She might never walk again due to her injuries. She might not even survive. But when she falls into a coma, I know the fates are looking out for me. They made it so she cannot run. They want me to fuck her senseless. They want me to risk it all. And for her, I damn well might. Because her eyes spoke to me. In that brief moment, they met mine before they rolled back in her head. Do with me what you will, Rough Slater. Do with me what you will. It's basically about a woman who tries to, sorry, spoiler alert, commit suicide by driving her car into a tree. It doesn't work and she ends up in a hospital and needs to be put into a medically induced coma. Then her doctor does what he wants with her while she's in said coma. A major part of contention is the portrayal of non-consensual acts that are romanticized. Many readers feel this is not perceived as a consensual kink, or CNC, which is consensual non-consent, but rather as outright abuse framed as dark romance.
I think it's really important that certain dark romance authors know that it is perfectly okay, encouraged even in some cases, that they can just be a horror writer, that they can be an erotic horror author. That genre is there for you. I don't understand this need to hold on to a dark romance label when it's really not necessary and doesn't apply, with these loose grasping at straws for a whole situation where it's like, well, it's a happily ever after if you squint and maybe sometimes think it is. It's a happy ending depending on who's reading it. Thrown on top of some like genuinely horrific, downright disturbing, fucked up subject matter. There's this like promotional post floating around advertising an up and coming dark romance because arcs are just now being released where a doctor enters a relationship with a coma patient while she is in that coma. And it got a lot of backlash and a lot of controversy for very obvious reasons. And this author who wrote it came forward and gave spoilers about her book to give context. It says that it's a dark romance that borders on being erotic horror.
So those screenshots, it says, this is a spoiler for it. Does she wake up in it? Spoiler, yes. Hence it's dark romance because a romance does develop. Is there an HEA? What's HEA? Oh, HEA is happily ever after in the book world. I didn't know that. So the spoiler is, depends on how well you can understand her. Will some think it's a horror ending? Yes, hence the bordering on horror erotica. So the marketing is correct.
And in her spoilers, she reveals that this is a woman who is suicidal and attempts to take her own life and ends up in this coma. And when she wakes up, she opts to go into a medically induced coma while also giving this doctor permission to do what he wants with her body to make him happy. It's a happy ending for him. And then he takes her around the world in a wheelchair, hoping to make her happy. And I guess this is supposed to imply that like maybe eventually they work through her depression.
And then someone else did say, does she wake up? She does wake up, right? At least by the 50% mark. And Miranda Grant says, we don't gatekeep spoilers here, but because people need stuff for their mental health, so spoiler. Short answer, yes. And then the long answer is she's in a coma because she tried to commit suicide. So when she wakes up, she isn't happy about it and tries again, but he's determined to help her. So he tries everything in his power to make her happy and love life again. However, he cannot cure her depression. So she offers to go back under for him because he's the only person who actually tried to help her. He ends up taking her around the world in a wheelchair, happy to care for her completely.
This isn't a happy ending for both parties, so it's not a happy ending, period. And I think what bothers me is that like a lot of these dark romance writers and enjoyers know that the work is horrific. That's kind of the point. That's what makes this whole thing taboo. There's a lot of overlap in horror and dark romance on that front. And people can sit here and talk about how dark romance, writing it, reading it, helps them work through personal traumas of their own, and that's fine. But I think we also need to be talking about how not only people are mislabeling this material and misadvertising it, but also weaponizing this material.
Now, I know I mentioned it earlier, sorry, spoiler alert, that the female main character tries to take her own life, but when the author revealed this to the audience, many are questioning that if that's the case, then the main character might not be in the most stable condition mentally to have agreed to the doctor having his way with her. On the other hand, for survivors of SA and other assaults, reading these types of books or concepts can be very healing or help them in a way to kind of process their trauma. So what even is dark romance? I'm sure everyone has their own take, but this is what the internet said. Dark romance is a subgenre of romance fiction that explores themes considered taboo, morally grey, or emotionally intense. It will often involve danger, power imbalance, obsession, or trauma. Unlike traditional romance, which centers on safety, mutual respect, and emotional comfort, dark romance walks the edge between discomfort and danger while still usually delivering a central love story and emotional payoff. You'll often see things like psychological trauma, obsession, possessiveness, abuse or assault, criminal activity, amongst other things. Non-traditional consent dynamics, so consensual non-consent, CNC, or something like dubcon, where the consent of one or more participants is unclear or questionable. The internet also had this to say: despite the harsh or unsettling themes, dark romance does not glorify real-world abuse when written responsibly. Dark romance is about pushing boundaries in fiction. For some, it's thrilling, emotional, cathartic, or psychologically fascinating. For others, it can be uncomfortable or triggering. The appeal lies in how it challenges conventional romantic ideals and creates space for powerful, if unsettling, storytelling. The general consensus seems to be that this isn't romance, but that's how it's marketed.
So if you are new here, there is an author who is behaving badly. Shocker. She's currently promoting a new book of hers called Keeping Her Under as a dark romance when it is in fact not a dark romance. It's a grape fantasy. The FMC is in a coma and the MMC is her doctor and he essays her. I am the biggest lover of dark romance, okay? I'm the first to sit here and say that it can be healing, that it can be a really powerful genre for people. I love it. It's what I primarily read. I think this author wrote this book for shock value because it's shocking, right? But her responses and actions have been infuriating, to say the least. First, she is limiting her comments. So you can't just go in and comment on any of her posts. She is also deleting comments as well. Yeah. And lastly, she's gaslighting. She's gaslighting, trying to convince people of something else. Now, this post was made on July 25th. And if you look down here at the bottom, it says, I have heard so many complaints about annoying FMCs in dark romance. So here's a book that doesn't have one because she's in a coma. LOL. When she started to get a little bit of hate, she made a post a few days ago breaking down, let's discuss. First of all, you can't discuss it because she has her comments limited. NCN versus grape. Now, NCN stands for non-consent. And I'll show you the whole caption here at the bottom. Non-consent versus grape and tomato. They are both grape. Okay. So you can pause to read.
Okay, I'll just read some of this. It's a lot. So CNC, we've spoken about, which is consent, non-consent. That means consent is gained beforehand. There are boundaries placed. There are rules and guidelines and safe practices. It cannot be CNC if consent is never gained. In dark romance, however, you will see this used to describe scenes where it's questionably consensual. She doesn't outright say no, or she says no but wants it, or she truly says no but gets wet / he totes knows what she really wants and then she ends up wanting it. In real life, the latter is full on grape. Just because you are wet or hard doesn't mean you consent, but in books it can be a grey area. Now, I personally market those as NCN, but not all authors do. Just be aware of that. I don't know what NCN means, so here we go. So NCN is non-consensual. In real life, this is a synonym for grape. In book terms, this is often reserved for nice grape. And you will even get authors who say things like, there's non-con and then there's this shit. Coma grape. You ain't gonna sit there and call that taboo when it's literally grape. Like, just say you write grape fancy and be done. And they actually mean it. Okay, why is she writing this?
But she starts off with CNC, which is consent, not non-consent. It's implied consent. Consent is originally given beforehand. That is used very commonly in dark romance. That is not what she is marketing her book as, okay? She then breaks down NCN and how it is different in fiction versus grape.
There's also a strong divide between MC's grape and villain grape, and a lot of authors are using NCN to show that it's between the MCs rather than unwanted grape. Obviously, in real life, there is no good or wanted kind. Spouses, partners, and friends make up the most majority of grapists. Most grapes aren't violent. Most grapes end up with the woman wet because of biology. That does not make them better. That does not make NCN not great. So where do you draw the line between those three? Do you see one as worse than the other? Do you see them as the same in real life?
She pulled the whole, well, dark romance can be really healing to people who have experienced SA.
So this is Miranda replying to a comment. And many other survivors are saying it helps them. Why does your struggle override theirs? Why does your therapy and healing matter more? I do not block people because they have different opinions or because they come at me as a random person. It takes guts to stand up for what you believe in, and I admire that. I block people when they decide to attack my readers and only want to see their POV while ignoring the damage they are doing while riding their high horse. I'm fully aware my books are not for every survivor, but you have spaces elsewhere. The entire world is not yours. I write for those that need something more. I'm fully aware of my work being damaging to some survivors, which is why I'm very clear with my trigger warnings and why I warn people to avoid my hard editions. But if a reader picks up my book, reads and ignores the triggers, and then has an issue, that is not on me. I did not force them to read it. I did not force them to buy it. You have a block button. You have the ability to not keep flipping the pages, and I have twisted nothing. I simply don't write for you.
More responses.
God. LOL. Those dark romance authors you're protecting literally think NCN isn't great. Something many of them have said, like, that's fucked up. They also think it's totally cool to attack survivors who do use this sort of content to heal, which is even more fucked up. Or are only victims that act like your idea of a victim the only ones that matter? What did she wear? What did she have to drink? What did she read? Are survivors not allowed to be not harmed if we stay inside a box? Is therapy only allowed to exist in a certain way? And I know my content isn't for everyone, but I don't write for you. I don't write for them. This is why trigger warnings exist, so they can know not to read it.
Asking a lot of questions, but then again, limiting the comments.
I write for a group of survivors who do not use this to heal. I write for a group of survivors who do use this to heal, and I don't care how I look to you or anyone else. The world's opinion of me is a non-factor because I know who I am, and I know who I write for, and I know the messages I get in my inbox and the stories I get in my kill them form from survivors I have helped heal just a little bit.
And there was a comment done that she apparently had some book with CSAM in it. This is her response to that. I don't know.
I'll read the CSAM book. There's literally a soft edition without my CSA in it. The hard edition is for us CSA survivors who use this to heal, and I warned people over and over again not to seek it out without reading the trigger warnings, as the first few chapters has her at a legal marrying age for that time. It takes place 100 years ago. This is on them because the trigger warnings have been more than clear. I even give trigger warnings on top of trigger warnings to make sure people are prepared. And the reviews about that book that talk about the bathroom scene use more words to talk about it than I did in the entire book. I wrote 4 lines because shit like that happens, and I do not shy away from hard subjects.
Now this book sounds more like it is a horror erotica. One of the comments asked if it was a happily ever after, and she was like, kind of, LOL. Happily ever after is implied in romance, in dark romance even, most of the time, and horror erotica usually not. Also, romance means that there's love between two characters, and if one is unconscious the entire time during the book, there's no love happening here. Number 1, this is a grape fantasy. Number 2, gaslighting readers into believing that it is dark romance when it is in fact not dark romance is icky. And number 3, don't limit your comments.
So as we've heard, the controversy extends beyond the book to the author's reaction to readers who criticized the story. There has been speculation that the author reportedly blocked multiple users across platforms for negative feedback or limited comments. I don't have proof of the deleting of comments, so do with that as you will. The criticism comes from readers finding the book's portrayal of non-consensual acts disturbing, particularly when marketed as romance, or rather dark romance. While some may say it explores dark, boundary-pushing fiction, many feel it crosses important moral and ethical lines. So should this be a horror novel instead?
On today's episode of Authors Behaving Badly, we have an author that decided that this book needed to be written, she needed to tell the story, and then she published it. And when she promoted the book, she basically said, are you tired of FMCs talking too much? Well, you don't have to worry, because this one is in a coma. Books like this is why the genre of dark romance gets a bad rap. That's why people say that dark romance is basically just all grape, because we have books like this being pushed out. Nobody asked for this. Nobody wants to read this. I enjoy reading the dark romance genre, and there is a piece of that is consensual, non-consensual. So she consents to not consenting, which again is consent, and that is okay. This, however, a doctor doing stuff with a woman who is in a coma who cannot consent is not okay. I don't understand why some authors think that just because it's fiction, they're able to write whatever they want. It is not okay. Just like grooming is not okay in romance books, neither is grape, and authors need to recognize that and stop putting out stuff like this.
So earlier on in Rose's video, they mentioned a book this author published in the past that included CSAM. I found comments questioning this work too. So someone said here, please explain the logic behind needing to write and describe infant grape. Miranda replies with, because it's a topic that isn't discussed enough. Do you know how many mothers have come back to find their babies hurt, but they don't know what caused it? Do you know how many think that leaving an infant alone with their cousin or father or brother or husband or boyfriend is okay because she's too young for them to do anything to? Do you know how many are graped as a way to hurt the mother, or how many are graped in STD prevalent countries because they are clean? Hard subjects shouldn't be ignored because they're uncomfortable. Doing that is what's leading to silencing survivors. And the detail you're talking about is 4 lines in a 400+ page book. 2 to describe why the pedo is being tortured, 2 to describe her injuries so parents know what the signs are. So it all made sense when I saw it was Miranda Grant. If she has no haters, I'm dead. This isn't even her first coma romance. In another book, the FMC wakes up to find that she has multiple kids with the MMC. How romantic. She also loves to include unnecessary child SA in books, including a 12-week-old baby for shock value. And someone was like, yeah, that's insane, and no one seems to care. I've been commenting this for a while and have basically been ignored. She's vile and disgusting. People keep recommending the book on dark romance pages. The book is supposedly called Madness Behind the Mask. I can't say for sure. I'm not going to read it to find out. I did read that there were 2 versions. There was an original version and a soft version, because according to, I'll read it in a second, this comment here by the author Miranda Grant, the hard edition was banned. So someone said, why can I only find the soft edition on Kindle? Miranda Grant replies with, because the hard edition has been banned. The soft edition is still a very dark romance, but if you're good with trigger warnings, then you can get the hard on my website. This is like another Tory Woods issue, surely. If you're not familiar with that controversy, I'll link it here. But she wrote a book about a 3-year-old little girl whose dad's best friend was basically like desiring her and like couldn't wait for her to grow up so that he could like do stuff with her. Yeah. And she got arrested for it. I don't know if I'm a dark romance reader. Maybe some of my books fall into that category. Ages ago, I started reading a book called The Offering. Someone sold it to me. Right, okay, hang on. Someone sold it to me like it's a combination of Vessel from Sleep Token and Spice. I mean, sounds sexy, mysterious. He's a masked man, right? It's kind of hot. But yeah, it was, I did not read very much of it, but it started out pretty hard, pretty dark, too dark for me. So I just it wasn't my cup of tea. Honestly, I have to say, the moment I first started hearing these TikToks talk about this like coma, patient in coma, I honestly, all I could think about were like the horrendous actions of Jimmy Savile, who like used to be like a TV personality person back in like the 70s, and he abused like 60 patients at Mandeville Hospital in like Stoke. Some of them were in comas. So that's literally all it reminded me of. Anyway, I'm clearly not the target audience. I'm trying to be impartial to a point. I'm just trying to kind of bring you the facts. I'll also just add that this book isn't out yet. So no one has actually read the thing in the book in its entirety. I believe it comes out at the end of this month. So is it too soon to judge? I don't know. What do you think? And if you read dark romance, would you consider this dark romance or a horror? Or is it pitch black? Is that what people call, I don't know, great fantasies? I don't know. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Bye.